Welcome in, folks. Appreciate your patience. We're just ironing out some logistics. Come on in. All right, and Bethany and others, if you can help with admitting as I do a brief intro here, that would be great. All right, folks, welcome. Welcome to our most recent or our freshest K1 installment. This month's theme has been wealth building. We had a great class 2 weeks ago that was kind of about getting started with real estate investing. Really great conversation, and I'm excited for us to go kind of deeper in that conversation today. We've kind of called this advanced wealth building, but I'm very excited. And as Bethany just said, get your cameras on. This conversation is going to kind of be two-parted. We're going to kind of wind Coby up and let him go, kind of firing through kind of his story and his perspective. And then I've got some questions to kind of dive further into how he thinks about things. And we'll, of course, provide space for y'all's questions at the very end of it. So with that, I'm excited for this conversation. Coby and I met early this summer at the Summer Masterminds up in Independence, and was struck at his drive, his clarity of focus, and just the plan that he's put in place. I'm really excited to present Coby Socher to you, and he'll introduce himself kind of throughout this conversation. So Coby, I'll hand the mic to you and let you run with it.
Got to get off Zoom or get off mute here. All right, guys, how's it going? All's well. Hope everybody's doing good. My business coach has this thing where he goes, I'm just going to assume everybody's doing good, and I'm just going to do my thing. So that's kind of how I'm going to roll. So here we go. Let's go really hard, really fast. Take out your notebooks, focus all in. My intention is to have focus, clarity, excitement, and energy throughout this entire time. I want to roll you guys through within 20 to 25 minutes, my entire world. I want to show you what I'm doing, where I'm having success, maybe where some issues are going to lie, how you can implement what I'm doing into your business and have a lot of fun with it, make a shit ton of money. That's the end of the day. If we're not doing it for the money, then we should probably go do something else, right? Now, money can do good, but you have to make the money before you can do good with the money, right? Because there's only so much good you can do with credit card and credit card debt. So my job right now is to teach you guys how I keep investment real estate at the core of the lead generation. What I'm going to teach you is how you can become your own best investor and your own best, most profitable client for your real estate business, right? So all of us are looking for that shiny object. And in real estate, I always say we have like this shiny object syndrome, right? And it's what's the shiny object that can make us a ton of money this upcoming year? And what I would push back to you is if you were to look in the mirror, and that's not me, but if it were me, if you were to look in the mirror, like you're that shiny object, and it should be you. You're the shiny object that's going to get you to the next place. Okay. Jumping through for a second, just want to talk to you about myself, why I'm standing here, why maybe you should listen to me. If you don't want to listen to me, that's cool. Also, husband and dad. I've got an amazing 3-year-old and awesome wife who I actually work with on a day-to-day basis. 32 years old. I have more than $3.7 million in real estate holdings. I am the owner of Speedy Offers. We're a real estate investment company. We have net year to date $1.421320 million. So $1.4 million in net income. Net means that's what we put in our pockets, guys, right? Owner of the Socher team, partners with my mom. We have a year to date GCI of 794, 469, and our profit margins at a 35% profit margin. Why do I show you those things? I show you those things because I've sat in a room since 2011 when I joined real estate. I'm looking at Erica Chelko right here, who is somebody who's been in my corner and part of my life since I started real estate, right? And I sat in the room and I've heard all these people speak. And I've always wondered, like, what do they actually make? What do they actually do? Are they actually who I should be listening to? And I'm like, man, I wish when they talked about who they were, they would actually put up something that showed what they were worth and how much they're making, and not just how much they made maybe 3 years ago when they had a great year, but like, what did they make this year, right now, year to date? And then not only what did they gross, but what did they net? Can they prove it via a P&L? I recently had an interview with Jason Abrams to be in the book. If you look at the newest Millionaire Agent Playbook, you'll see my page in that. And one of the ways to get through that is Gary and Jason vet your numbers. So you have to send them your P&L to vet it through. So I've been vetted through this year. So I just am throwing that out there, not to like act all slick and greasy and exciting, but just so that you know like exactly where I'm at today. For some of you, that's going to be big numbers. For some of you, you're like, yeah, it's okay. Not very exciting. It's in the mid range. So that's where I'm at today. Make sense? Let's move on. All right. Gary Keller says, if you're not tracking your net worth, you're not even in the game. We're all sitting in here in Keller Williams, so I assume that we all believe in some of the stuff Gary says. If you're not tracking your net worth, you're not even in the game, okay? So then you got to figure out, well, what am I worth today? What do I want to be worth in 30 years from now? And what would it take to get there? This is the whole game. This is my entire roadmap, and what got me to having those net numbers is by starting with this. So what I did is I figured out, what do I want to be worth in 30 years from now? What is my net worth goals? What do I want in 30 years from now? What do I want my life to look like? What is the big vision? And what's the why behind it? Then, what would it actually take to get there? See, if you don't know what you're worth now, you don't know what you want in 30 years from now, you have no chance of figuring out what it's going to take to get there. So you're just going to run circles, making money. You're in the rat race. You're paying your bills. You've got credit card debt. Things are always about the same in your life. Just you look at a 10-year period, you're like, yeah, well, I was up, I was down, I was mid. You don't know where you're driving towards, right? And so I wanted to get really, really focused and not just have a big volume business. I didn't want to just have big units or big GCI. I wanted to have a big net number that headed me towards what I wanted long-term in my life, which long-term for me was looking 30 years down the road, okay? And really what you have to start by is figuring out what it would actually take to get there. But first, what am I worth today? So you go and create a balance sheet, and we can talk about that later, okay? Next, you have to track it. So I am not only figuring out what I want to be worth 30 years from now, I'm not only figuring out what it would take to get there, I'm not only wanting to figure out what I'm worth today, but now I've got to track it on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. And if I take my 30-year goal, can I track against it? How am I trending towards my 30-year plan? Okay? Then you got to choose an investment avatar. So now we're going to switch bases for a second. So we talked originally about, I'm going to show you how to become your most profitable client within your real estate business. And that's what I'm about to teach you right now. Then we go into the why, what made me want to go figure out how to make a lot more money. And this is how we go make a lot more money. So you go choose your investment avatar. Here we got some loading. And next, there's me as an avatar, not a very great avatar. And what I believe is what I know best are mediocre homes in Greater Cleveland. So right now, if you could just, everybody open their chat box for a second and tell me just a yes or no, is what you know best mediocre homes in the neighborhood you sell the most? Yes or no? Is that what you know best? No? No? Okay. Yes. 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 Keep going. No? Okay. If you don't, I would suggest you push for that. I see Rick Tannenbaum's on here, and I would agree. I know that Rick knows the markets he sells in probably better than anybody else. What I realized was if I were to start going to invest in cryptocurrency, or I'd start playing the stock market, or I get into commercial real estate or other types of things, it's not what I know best. What I know best is residential homes and mediocre homes in Greater Cleveland. So that's the only thing I do, and it's created a ton of money. Moving on from there. So here is my avatar. So pretty much what I did is I figured out what is the exact thing I want to go buy or I want to do. So one, single family. I did an analysis on 20 multifamily properties I'd bought in the last 3 years, and I had not done as well on them in terms of average net profit and time it took to actually make the net profit than I did on single family homes. So I focused on single family homes under 2,500 square feet, has to be 2 to 4 bedrooms and 1 to 3 bathrooms. And if I'm buying it 30% below market value, I buy now. That's it. It's that simple. So there's my avatar. Here's exactly what I'm buying, right? And if I can buy it 30% below market value, I buy now. It's as simple as that. Next, what now? So I then run a deal hierarchy. Who here, raise your hand if you run any sort of deal hierarchy within your business or know what a deal hierarchy is? Okay, I don't see many raised hands, so I'm going to assume I can talk about this a little bit. So a deal hierarchy. So where can I focus to make the most amount of money? See, I was always playing the card of being a realtor, right? And as a realtor, we can make a commission. So max amount I'm going to make on a property is 6%. Average is I'm going to make a 3.2, or maybe a 3%. There might be some fees on the back end. Who knows? But I changed it. What I realized is I had the ability to be all the different elements. So my first part of my deal hierarchy is, can I buy it? Next thing is, can I control the deal? Can I put it under contract? Can I control it? Can I quick flip it? That's why I double close on the property. Okay, and I can explain that. I'll make about $15,000. We'll talk about that later. Can I create value and can I flip it? My average flip right now is netting about $66,000. Yes, you heard that right. I'm buying mediocre homes in Greater Cleveland and I'm netting $66,000 per deal on those. Next thing, can I double end it with a retail buyer? Meaning, do I have a buyer in my back pocket because I know I can get it 30% below market value? Do I have a buyer in my back pocket that I can go create a 6% commission versus putting on the market and only creating a 3%? Okay. Next is, can we list it? That's my last option. Now, Keller Williams here on the, we're in a Keller Williams room, and so our goal is GCI. But you will create GCI no matter what you do in these scenarios for your market center. So my last thing is, can I list it? If we're going to list it, I push it from Speedy Offers and I push it to the Socher team. I'm about to explain that in a second. Moving from there, here is my deal hierarchy. So this is a big poster on my wall, and here's the deal hierarchy. Deal comes in. Can we quick flip it? If we can quick flip it with an interested buyer, we do that, we close, we move on. Our goal is, if you look down here on the quick flip, is to make 15K. Okay? If the answer is no, we can't. When there's 3 days left in the inspection period, we go and inspect the property. So I'll walk through it. Yes, I'm getting into these properties without walking through it because I have a team behind me, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay? So once we inspect the property, we either walk away from the deal. When an inspect, it might be a walkthrough, by the way, not an inspection, or we take it down. If we take it down, we run the numbers on 3 options. Number 1 option is buy it as a rental. If I'm buying a property as a rental, I want $500 per month in net income. A couple other criteria, but this is the main thing. Okay. If I'm wholetailing, a wholesale is where I buy the property, I take it down, I put less than $500 into the home, and I put it back on the retail market. Because I'm buying it 30% below market value, I can still leave a margin for the next buyer, right? So I'm buying it such below market value, I maybe landscape it, clean it, empty it, put it right back in the market and sell it. On those, my goal is to make $32,500. Or do I flip it? So flipping is one of my last options here. If I flip the property, because it takes a lot of equity, in the deal, you have to have a lot of cash, a lot of expenses. So if I'm going to go flip it, I need to make on average $50,000 is my minimum threshold. If I'm not going to make $50,000, I do not flip. So if you see one of my flips on the market, you better believe that I'm making at least $50,000 with an average of $66,000 on there. Okay. Moving on from here. Here's a little bit, and I don't need to explain this deeply, but I'll just give you just a little bit of insight on this. So if we have a potential seller lead, here's how I look at it. So again, oops, sorry about that. If we have a potential seller lead, here's how I look at it. You have the Socher team, which is our retail realtor business, and you have Speedy Offers, which is our cash offer acquisition business. So if a deal comes in and the lead comes in through the Socher team, right? I would ask, would this client be better served by our acquisitions team, which is Speedy Offers? If the answer is no, their property is a great fit for the market. If the answer is yes, then the property is not a great fit for the market. That lead gets pushed to Speedy Offers, our investment side of the business. If it's just you, which it wasn't just me for a long time before I had a large team on the investment side, you can play it both ways. If the lead comes in through Speedy Offers, we ask, would this client be better served by a retail team? If the answer is no, their property is a great fit for acquisitions. If it's yes, the property is a great fit for the, it should actually say, sorry, for retail there. Here's the reality, guys. Every time that we talk about being investors, we get this mindset that an investor is scummy, scammy, and sketchy. And I agree with you guys, every one bit of it. The way I became an investor mostly is I represented every shitty investor in the state of Ohio who came in from out of town or in town. They would screw my buyers over. There'd be an ROC, they wouldn't do the work. There would be fake receipts. They wouldn't pull permits. They wouldn't make them inspection ready. They wouldn't do it the right way. And I realized that there was a way to be profitable and do it the right way. And the same way, we're fiduciaries as realtors. If we have a cash offer side of our business, by the way, does it have to be your cash, Mark? No, it can be somebody else's cash. One of my favorite words is OPM, other people's money, right? And so that money can now be, you know, your uncle's or aunt's money. You could still make a cash offer on the property, but we need to make sure that when we're making cash offer on the property, they know what their market value is. And we say to them, hey, you would probably be able to make more money if you were to list this home with the Socher team, our realtor business, put it on the market and go through that process. Your net would be greater than if you sold it to Speedy Offers. When you sell a home to Speedy Offers, it's you having the allowance to click the easy button and have to not deal with anything. No one will go through your, it's just not a headache at all. It's going to be the simplest thing in the world. But what makes most sense for you? So every single lead gets an opportunity to work with our investment side of it, the cash offer side of it, and work with our realtor side. It also means no lead gets left behind. That's really important, guys. I had so many leads over the years where they ended up selling to a cash offer deal originally. And then I go on there and it's actually, they decided to list it in the end. See, what happens is somebody thinks they want a cash offer. We give them a cash offer. We show them what they can net with a realtor on the market. And all of a sudden, because we've created an a la carte option, now we're getting so many more deals. Does this make sense? This year alone, we have listed 22 properties that were leads from the cash offer business who people thought they wanted a cash deal. 22 listings. Who here would like an extra 22 listings this year, right? An extra 22 listings from people who thought they wanted a cash offer, but when we showed them what they could net at the end of the day, the other investors didn't do that, guys. The other investors were just classic investors. They're trying to get a low deal and they're trying to get them to take the least amount of money possible. That's not the game. The game is giving options, okay? So what we did was we created a solution for every situation. The S of the solution is the Socher team, realtor. The S of the situation is Speedy Offers, right? By doing that, we became our own best client. Also, our team listed this year about 20 properties on top of the 21 listings we created from leads. We created 20 listings plus from our internal flips. Okay. Due to that, we had 13 buyers we put under contract. Like, I'm just putting out real numbers here. These are numbers I track and numbers I look at, but we created a lead generation machine back and forth. By the way, on top of that, our best flips, where do you think they came from? They came from a listing appointment. And by the way, the same listing appointments I used to hate were $75,000 to $110,000 listing appointments where the home's dilapidated and ugly and needs so much work and I'd have to deal with an annoying investor. What did I do now? Hey, would it make more sense for you to just sell it to us cash, no closing costs, quick close, you know, and move on? Or do you really want to list this? Like, no, we'd much rather just sell it as is and leave all our crap here. I'm like, cool, we can do that for you. And those have created our largest spreads as flips. So you create this synergy between your two worlds. So instead of having the shiny syndrome object where we're going to go out there and buy all these shiny things from other people, we can just do it ourselves by creating one more option for something we're already doing and we know it best. See, I look at investment real estate, guys, as insider trading. Why do I look at it like insider trading? It's because I know what the seller wants to sell their property for. I know what an appraisal will appraise the property for. I know what the cost of the construction is going to be. I know what an end buyer will pay for it. I can even figure out how much interest there is in the market right now. I can know what the fluctuate. I can figure out every single data point. On top of that, I can risk mitigate by knowing that if I buy a property 30% below market value minus renovations, well, even worst case scenario is I sell it 10% below market value and I still make money. Okay, so I have not lost on a deal thus far by following my strategy. As long as you understand how to underwrite a property that you know, there should be no way to lose. Okay, so here's my lead generation, and I'm going to give you some disclaimers. I'm not an attorney. This is not part of RESPA violations. This is not part of, you could, all these like, let's just be really clear here. Any suggestions you take from me, there's a lot of do not call stuff right now going out there. Just be careful. But I just want to show you guys, like, I'm going to show you exactly what I do. This is even the where I get the leads from. So we lead generate every single day for investment deals to create deal flow. So I used to be the one calling, but we have guys in the office, and we do it like this. Number one is mailer campaign through REI print. Okay. I suggest if you do this, you have to have a pretty hefty budget. Don't do this first. Do this once you've done maybe 10 deals, because it's very expensive and it takes about a year to work. Number two, fast home offer, pay per lead. You give them a budget you're willing to spend. Let's say there's a $300 lead cost, and you get off-market leads. They come directly as a text message. You call the person, you got to close them. You don't close them, it's on you. You can burn through a ton of money doing this. We've burned through 20 or 30 grand at a time, not getting a ton of deals. We've also done great. So be careful, but I'm just showing you, these are the three things. Number three, we cold call data from PropStream.com on Mojo. So you go on to PropStream.com, it costs $99 a month. I pull data, and I am not going after people who live in their home. So I'm not trying to get grandma to sell her home. What I'm trying to do is I'm getting a landlord who has violations in the home, hasn't paid taxes, haven't paid utilities, their home's dilapidated, renter's not paying, the landlord's tired, and I'm just giving them an option to get out if they would like. If they want more than I can offer them for the property, I push them to our retail team. See how easy that works? It takes the scam out of being an investor, right? It takes the bullshit part out of it. It's like, oh, sir, if this number doesn't work for you, I'd like to offer you what this could do. And with this net offer, this would be by listing it on the market, and you can make so much more. What makes most sense for you? The cash offer or the offer where you put it on the market? You get to choose, okay? And so we are on the dialer every single day. Our average acquisition agent is on the dialer for 3.5 hours a day if they do have an appointment. If they do not have an appointment, we're on the dialer for 5.5 hours per day. And yes, you heard those numbers right. And I built my entire business by being on the phone, and people still answer, and we still do a lot of deals from it. Okay? Don't be scared to get on the phone. Worst case scenario, they say F you. From there, run the deal hierarchy play to achieve your 30-year net worth plan. So I'm going to just recalibrate for a second, right? This is how I'm going to land you guys, and how we're going to end right on time. Is that right, Mark?
Doing great.
All right. So the way we're going to land this is, I just want you guys, I'm going to go back to this for a second, and I just want to throw this out there. So we go back to the beginning, right? Give me a second. We're almost there. And you're going to leave here, and my hope for you is that you take a second and you think about your long-term life. Man, it's for some reason I'm like glitching on Zoom with this. I'm clicking, but it's too many clicks per slide. All right, there we go. I want everybody to leave here, and your homework, if you choose, right? And just to be clear, like, I'm not being paid for this. I'm just showing you what's working for me. And I think why I'm doing that is because I've been in a business for so long where people like to teach about things they're not doing. This industry is full of everybody teaching what they're not doing. These are specific things I'm actually doing. Every single thing in here, I have. If I don't have it, I didn't teach it to you. So what I do, and what I would suggest you do, is figure out, like, what is your life actually going to look like in 30 years? What would it actually take to get there? And what am I worth today? By the way, the reason why I had to start the investment business is because what I realized was the realtor business wasn't going to fully get me there. I needed other options. Gary Keller teaches that we are entrepreneurs and we are business people. We are not just realtors. And that's why Gary Keller's quote is in here. So he says you have to figure out what it's going to take to get there. What I didn't realize is by creating the investment business, I was just thinking about the cash. I didn't think until we were a couple years in how the synergy was going to work and how we were going to be the best lead generator our realtor business ever had. And I didn't realize on top of that, that we were going to be our business's top client of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that, I'm going to end. I'll let Mark jump in, and you guys can ask me any question you have. Follow me on Instagram, slide into my DMs. I'm really good at DMing people for some reason. I suck at text message and email. So, but if you DM me, I will respond same day. and call me if you need anything. I'm happy to help, happy to give you anything that I have. There's nothing I'm doing that's proprietary. There's nothing I'm doing that's special. I just took a ton of action.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coby. I'm excited to unpack so much of what you just did. If you want to do a stop share so we can see our faces better, and so I'm going to lead a conversation here, but then I want to create space for anyone to dive in as well. Coby, I want to start with the vision. I was struck by you. Actually, at a Brett Tanner event. Brett, we were in Detroit probably this time last year, maybe. And Brett was kind of having a conversation with you, and he highlighted your goal. And I was like, wow, that's a surprising goal. Tell us about your net worth goal, if you're comfortable, kind of how that came about, and how, what does it accomplish for you?
Yeah. It's funny. I wasn't expecting Brett to, kind of just say my numbers out loud, and then he did. And so, it's just been really interesting. So Brett Tanner has been my business coach since 2019. By the way, you guys can still see me, right?
Yep.
It's always weird on Zoom when you can't see yourself. Whatever. Technology is not my thing. I'm not going to say that out loud though. But going back to your question, what's my net worth goal? So I sat down and I first wrote a business plan to be worth $50 million in 30 years. Then I backtracked to figure out what it would take. And what's crazy, and everybody in this room might not believe it, but if you bought 2 homes at around $250,000 a piece every single year for the next 30 years, you'd be worth about $50 million by the end of it, with the mortgages paying out and appreciation and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, that's not enough to get me really going. And then I realized, so I put it to $100 million. And it just, again, didn't get me fueled enough to have to figure out something different and bigger. And so my goal currently, that's been built out, is for $350 million, with $100 million of that money based off my partnerships being my parents' net worth, which is their legacy for their family. $250 million being for me and my family. And you can see, like, I get like emotional when I talk about it, right? Because I'm really bought into it. And so when I built that, I realized like that is what the number was that made me so uncomfortable, that I had to change things, and I had to change the way I was doing things, and I had to change my belief system, and I had to change my ability to look in the mirror and tell myself I'm worthy of something. Because truthfully, when you start putting crazy numbers out there, you're like, man, do I need this? Do I deserve this? Is that a, I have a pretty rough mouth. So like, is that a douchebag goal? Like, right? Like, it's like, is that who are you? And then I was like, I started kind of going through, like, what could I do with that? What would it look like? What would it do for my, family? What would it do for my community? What would it do for, and I got through all those pieces and elements and parts. And that's where I am right now. And I track against it. Just to give you an idea, I'm right now, I'm a little bit behind where I was this summer, which was 3.3 years ahead of my goal. But currently I'm at 2.9 years ahead of my goal. So I track against it. It's like it beats me up and I care about it.
That's awesome. So it sounds like it was less about what $350 million does for me, and more about your degree of kind of, you want to push yourself. You want to be on the edge of uncomfortable, just because you're a growth oriented person. Is that kind of a fair?
I think it's both. I mean, I think it's definitely both. I mean, I built out a vivid vision of what it would do for me and my family, my community as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I realized that I was, and then I had to, like I said, like, I think the self-confidence side, like, it's just like anything, right? Like, you start doing bigger, different things and making more money and changing things, and people look at you like they looked at you and like you were 5 or 10 years ago, and they don't always like that you've changed and done a 180, essentially, which is what I had to do to do what I'm doing today.
Right. No, that's good. And I'm challenged by this conversation because, not to speak for all Ohioans here, but I think it's easy for us to slip into like, I'd be good with this. Like I think much more common in our culture is a settling for kind of expectation. Oh, I don't need much, or that would be too much. And so,
Well, can I pause you for a second there?
Yeah.
So I got into real estate when I was 18 years old. My mom's in real estate. I get into real estate. I'm working hard, and I didn't want to be looked at like a kid who didn't go to college and just did a million things. So I wasn't working at a restaurant and doing side gigs and doing this and doing, I just sold houses for good or for bad. And I started making a good amount of money. Right. And so that's one of the things you just talked about is like, you know, in Ohio, like, I mean, I was like 21 years old making, you know, 100K plus a year. Right. And then 150 or 200. And it's like, well, if, you know, and I was working really hard. Right now, I'm still working really hard, but changed what I specifically do and changed my belief. And now I feel like I'm scalable. I have been scalable enough to like 10 or 15x that number. But I believe my current scale is enough to go like 30 or 40x that number yearly. And like, I just couldn't do that with what I was doing before.
Sure. You already alluded to a little bit, you know, there's a stigma that investors are slimy, or that you're greedy, or that whatever. Talk with me about having really big goals while also prioritizing family, prioritizing the stuff that matters beyond the balance sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I just decided to not care about my family. I was kidding. No, it's actually the opposite. I think the reason why I became the investor was because as solely a realtor, I was reliant, and my family was reliant on everybody else saying yes. So Mark, I'm looking at you on my screen, and you're my client, and you and I get into a deal on a contract for a house you're going to buy for $350,000 as a rental property. It's a 3-family home in Ohio City. You put $5,000 of earnest money down, you get past inspections, and you tell me it's a cash deal, but it really turns out it's not a cash deal, right? It's a hard money loan. And well, hard money loan regulations changed a lot in November, right? And for anybody who's been dealing with some of those things. And now you call me and go, hey man, I'm backing out a week before closing. I'm like, well, dude, like you don't have an out to this deal. You're like, well, I'll just leave my earnest money. It's just $5,000. Now, for you lost $5,000, but for me, I lost my ability to pay for my expenses and to support my family that month. Mm-hmm. Seller still owns the property. Who gets screwed? The realtor.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. Go find. And so, you know, and then the flip side of that is I was finding myself with investors and I'm sure almost everybody on the screen has done this, where I would find them property below market value. I would walk it, take videos. I then would bring contractors in that I would find to go ahead and give them quotes. And I would meet them there during that time. Then I would find the lender for the deal, or find them the hard money lender for the deal or something. And I would put together the financing essentially, right? Then the deal would close, and I would help them and follow them through the construction process, whether they're in town or out of town, take videos and do all these things. And then we'd end the deal, and I would make 3%, and then they would make, let's say, the $66,000. And I'm like, this is wild. I did everything other than take on the liability of the deal. Mm-hmm. And the liability is not much of a liability if you understand how to underwrite a deal and how to price a deal correctly, such that you mitigate against risk.
Right. Right. So it's the summary is that it's not so much about forsaking the family in order to accomplish the goals. It's more just like, if I'm following a deal hierarchy, it's about being smart. It's not about needing more. It's just about being smart is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just following. And like I said, like I hired, just like everything, right? Everything goes back to like, who are you around? So I hired a business coach. I hired, you know, somebody doing it, right? I really believe that if you're going to go hire a coach, make sure they're doing the stuff you want.
Yep.
Like I want them in the trenches and having done and currently doing the stuff that I want to go achieve. And if they're not, they shouldn't be coaching you on how to get there, because I had so many great coaches that were so fluffy and didn't get me anywhere because they hadn't actually done the stuff I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Hence enter Brett, right? Let's talk about lead flow. And that's Aaron, your question pairs well with where I wanted to take things. your whole system relies upon massive lead flow, and then your business is set up to basically solve every problem that those leads may potentially have in theory. Talk with us about your org chart, like who's behind the lead generation, prospecting side of the business, and even more specifically, what are you saying to get in front of homeowners right now?
Yeah, so you're asking my current org chart for my investment business, and then you're asking me what my script is. Is that the question?
Yep.
Like a cold call script, let's say?
Yep.
Okay. So great question. So my current organization started with just me. It went from me to me with an executive assistant or an administrative assistant in the investment side, just like our realtor business. This is hope everybody here should have like bells going off as I talk, being like, oh shit, this is exactly what we do. It's just a little bit of a different way of the transaction. Okay. So just like our real estate team started with me. So if you look at the organizational chart, it's the U, just like in the MREA. Right. Then you go from you to you plus an assistant. That's what I did. So I hired my assistant. It's still me lead generating, doing all the deals. Okay. Then it went from me to me an assistant to me an assistant and an acquisition agent, non-licensed salesperson. Call it ISA, if you will, but they were actually going on the appointments and making offers on my behalf. So I brought on somebody and I taught them how to go and present an offer and how to actually present an offer, and then how to negotiate that offer. Okay. Then I started hiring more acquisition agents. So today I have 6 acquisition agents. I have a sales manager. I have an executive assistant. I have we have a VA in the background, and then I have a head of disposition, and I just hired a head of construction because we also have a large construction team that's not full-time, but like works pretty much solely for us, doing our flipping and getting rental properties ready.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron, if you would like, I'd be happy to see. I have a document of my organizational chart. I could kind of send it to you or walk you through
it. How did you, just a question deeper on that, and then I'd love the cold call script if you don't mind sharing. 6 acquisition specialists. When did you know to go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, up to 6? How have you kind of benchmarked that growth from a hiring standpoint?
Here's how my coach would say it to me. So I'm going to talk to you, Mark, like my coach talks to me. Okay. Well, Mark, how big do you want your life to look? Do you want a small life? Or do you want a really big life? You get to choose. But if you want a small life, you're going to have not a lot of people in your world. You're not going to lead a lot of people. And if you want a really big world or a really big life, there's going to be a lot of people in your world. And a really great company has a lot of people and has a lot of great people. So there's only so much you can do for yourself. So you can choose, Mark. How do you want it to look? It's exactly what he would say to me. And so, it's easier to train 2 people than it is to train 1. If you have 5 people in the room, you can create a competition. If you have 1 person in the room, you create a friend.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a group of people working towards a massive goal, not one buddy or friend, just kind of doing some stuff here and there that I felt obligated to. And then it's just like realtors on your team, right? How big do you want your team to be? Well, how many deals do you want to close per year? Right? If the average person does 2 to 3 deals per month, then you just scale and figure out how many people you need to get to how many deals.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good answer?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was like kind of a profit first mentality, or like, all right, let's reverse engineer this and let's go get the people on the bus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? You have to have the deals, and you have to, by the way, there's a lot of elements to people. It's not just, attracting them. It's not just hiring them. It's not just training them. It's retaining them. So if you can't retain anybody, then, you have no right to hire them in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's fair. Cold call script. Give us one that's working for you right now.
Ring.
Hello.
Hey, is this Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, hey Mark. Sorry to bother you. My name is Coby with Speedy Offers. I'm calling. We're a cash offer business, and we're looking to buy a couple homes in your neighborhood. Cash offer, clean deal, no closing costs. And I was just wondering if at the right price you consider selling.
I've thought about selling, but I don't know where I'd go right now, honestly.
Well, by the way, I'm only calling you if it's a secondary property. I'm not calling a homeowner.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know.
Yep, that's how it keeps like I'm not kicking grandma out of her home.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, in that case,
Yep.
I mean, the numbers would have to make sense.
So
But I suppose I'm open to a conversation in theory.
the numbers made sense, you'd consider selling.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose so.
Well, let me do this. I'd love to take a 5-minute loop through your property. After that, I can make you a cash offer pretty much on the spot. If it makes sense, great. If not, maybe we can find some other option that might work for you.
All right. That's fine. You need me to be there?
No, yeah, I would do. I would like you to be there. Worst case scenario, we shake hands. You know, you have an idea of what your home's worth to a cash investor, and we go from there.
Perfect.
It's that, or we're calling and going like, ring, hi, I'm not sure if you can help me. We're calling about the property on 123 Main Street. We'd wonder if you'd sell your home for a cash offer. If I were to make you a cash offer in your home, would you be willing to sell it? You just go do that 6,000 times, and somebody's going to say yes and be nice.
Right. Right. Deeper on that for a second, and this is improv here, and you're handling it great. What are your conversions like? You're dialing so many people. How many dials to set an appointment? How many appointments to make an offer?
A lot of it's going to be based off of how good your data is that you're pulling. So you got to pull data. You got to make sure that the skip tracing you're doing for the cell phone numbers is a good skip tracing company. So those are like elements that are going to change. Your answer rate is going to be 7 to 10% typically. And then we're looking for about a 10% conversion on setting the appointment. But once we set the appointment, we have about a 30% fall through on actually appointment set to appointment held.
Of course.
And then we're signing 1 out of every 3 appointments held.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty dialed in. So for every,
yeah, I only kind of know my numbers.
Yeah, right. No. So for every 10 conversations, you can expect to make 1 or 2 offers once you kind of winnow that down to.
Yeah. I always in my real estate business try to call 10 expireds and set an appointment. Right. Out of that appointment, I want to make, but an appointment, it's like actually not just setting, but it's actually like presenting a listing presentation. Right. So it's like my original start, right? I call FISBOs and expireds. And so everybody was always like, oh, you get 20 contacts, you get an appointment. I was always trying to get it to 10.
Sure.
And it's just based off of your scripts and dialogues, connecting with the human and making sure that you are fulfilling the needs that they actually want.
Right. Shifting gears, I'd love to go into funding, and I'd love to go kind of in 2 different directions in funding. Briefly, I'd love to have kind of a conversation about getting started. So there's plenty of people who would say I'd love to invest in real estate, but I don't have enough money. And then I'd love to talk about once you reach the point that you no longer qualify for the traditional mortgages, kind of creative financing, what that's looked like in your world. So first, let's address the person that doesn't think that they have the money.
I mean, the elephant in the room and probably the most DMs I get on Instagram is love what you're doing. I want to do the same. Don't have any money or a way to get it. And I say, well, then you're not trying hard enough. Or you actually haven't found a good deal. No one's lending you on a bad deal.
Yeah.
You prove to me that what's your market, Mark?
I live in Akron, work in Canton.
Cool, Canton. So do you know Canton pretty well in the $100,000 to $150,000 range properties?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I find a deal, or you find a deal, right, in the Akron Canton area that the seller will sell for $75K, but is worth $115 all day long. Really, you think it's worth $130, but like $115 all day long. You found it for $75. You call 10 people and you're like, look, I could guarantee this sells for $100. I know it'll sell for $115, and I'm pretty sure it'll sell for $135.
Yeah.
I need a $75,000 investment. You call 10 people, just like lead generation, one's going to say yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. OPM, other people's money. Now, at the beginning, I believed it had to be all me. So I had to save up, and I figured out, and I can, that's a whole different story of how I got there. If you watch some of my Instagram videos, I teach how I started in like the first ways that I got the money from the beginning. But it was a little bit of my wife, a little bit of me, a little bit of credit cards. And the reality though is that most people right now say then their follow-up to me is, well, yeah, but if I pay, let's say a hard money lender or private money, I'm going to pay 10% plus fees. And I go, but if you're going to make 40%,
Yeah.
Are you willing to pay 13%?
Yeah.
Like, let's just go. And by the way, when I say you're going to make 40%, like, it's somebody else's money. So like, now you got to risk mitigate by knowing that there's a last out, right? But the biggest thing is finding the deals. The money will follow. You can go to a bank, you can go to a private lender. Everybody here on the phone here, I thought I don't have a lot of wealthy friends and family. So I was like, oh, I will never be able to borrow private money. Private money, a hard difference between private money and hard loan money is private money is Mark lending me 100 grand at, let's say, 8% for 6 months with no fees and just wiring it.
Right.
Well, let me tell you, I have about, I don't know, $1.1 million in private money I use from multiple different people that I'm rolling at all times just by talking about it. And so you're definitely, and there's lots of ways to get money.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you can go get a line of credit. There's a million things you can do. And again, everything sounds risky if the deal sucks.
Yeah.
Don't go get a line of credit against your house. Don't go borrow private money from grandma. Don't get somebody to lend you from their 401k or IRA when you have a deal that has a 5% spread that you're milking to 15 because you really just want to buy this house. You feel bad for the seller, right? Yeah. And like, don't do that. No, it's all based off of how good you are at underwriting.
Right. Right. There has to be enough meat on the bone. I love your point about I don't want to pay 13%. And I think all too often, and this is true of our retail clients as well. Oh, well, I would do this, but interest rates. And it's like, well, let's actually look at the deal. Let's actually look at the numbers here. Oh, you'd actually be saving money because of X, Y, and Z. Just so when underwriting kind of an investment deal all the way through, do the numbers make sense? Not are interest rates good or bad? Like that's not an irrelevant question, but it's certainly a secondary question to what's our profit opportunity? How much meat is there on the bone? Can you talk with me? Obviously acquiring property is a big part of your world, but I understand lending is also part of your world as well. Talk with me about kind of your relationship with private lending that you do and that you tap into as well.
Yeah, so I currently am not doing a huge amount of hard money loans, but I do have a hard money loan company called Speedy Funders. We are doing loans where capacity right this second based off of interest. But I do two different things with loans. I do hard money loans, and then on top of which is where, somebody looking to flip a home, I only do it for flippers, not for people looking to do BRRRR, refinance out. But we lend to them on the property. Typically, we're taking 10 to 20% down. And then the other thing I do is I buy a property and I'll sell it and I'll hold the note on the property. So I'm actually the bank when selling it. So I do owner financing. That's a really cool way, and we can get way deeper on that to create large income. I want to throw can I throw one other thing out there that you didn't ask? But a lot of times when I would hear things that I wasn't doing, that were in theory great ideas or somebody's having success, but they're at scale, and I was listening and I wasn't at scale. I had a really hard time believing that I could do it. And what I just throw out there to the room is, if on average I'm making $66,000 a flip, right? And let's say on a bad day, let's pretend we were making 33, or let's call it $43,000 a flip. Let's say we drop it by 20 grand, 25 grand, whatever the number is, right? So we're making $40,000 to $45,000 a flip. What would your life look like if you did an extra 2 of those a year for the next 10 years? Like, what if you didn't go huge? Like, what if you didn't go massive? What if you just did this? Like, you added, because you're in real estate, 1 to 3 investments a year to your world. I don't care if you're an admin. I don't care if you're a realtor. I don't care if you're a team leader or a buyer's agent. What if you added 1 to 3 deals per year in your portfolio because it's within the realm you're in already? What would that do if you now looked at a spreadsheet and you did a trajectory over the next 30 years of buying 1 to 3 properties a year? What would that do? Could you find a way to do it? I'm not asking you, like, this year we're gonna do well over 100 investment deals. I'm not saying you have to go scale the way I have, but I think that it would be a mistake as a realtor, especially a realtor in Keller Williams, where we have so many opportunities, to not use investment real estate as your vehicle to freedom.
Amen. Amen. I got one more question, then I want to open it up for you all, or whoever you've got, or for whatever you've got. So another kind of area where things fall apart is in the flipping space. And confession, I've only done buy and holds myself. That's been my game. I've kind of done some short term, like, oh, it's worth a lot more now, and I'd rather reposition it. So I sold it after 18 months, kind of call it a slow flip. But a defeater belief that I have is, gosh, there's not enough good skilled help out there in order for me to have confidence in the process. I talked with one of our agents who this morning closed on a flip. She's like, we made 30 grand. I'm like, great. Who did you work with? Like, oh, we did it all. I'm like, oh, so you made like $10 an hour is what's actually true. Talk with me about how you've built out the contractor side of your business, kind of rules that you have in place, how you hold them accountable, anything you've learned as it relates to managing contractors.
It goes back to limiting beliefs. We all have beliefs in our head that either we're not worthy or not capable or not smart enough, when it's reality of we're not willing to teach ourselves or learn from somebody else of what to do to get there. So I had all those thoughts and limiting beliefs and mindsets in my mind. Very positive person at core, still had limiting beliefs, right? And my limiting belief was, look, I have a dad who's a professor, a mom who's a realtor. Nobody knows how to even put a nail in the wall. When I would go to build, we had a baby, and 3 years ago, and I go put a baby gate in the wall, I was ruining the wall, had to hire a drywall guy. I am the worst at handyman stuff. I hardly have a set of tools, right? But I have a good set of eyes because all we do is look at properties. So I know what looks right and wrong, and I can hire an inspector for that, by the way, right? It's a really easy thing before you go flip property to know if your property is good or bad. Hire an inspector before and hire an inspector after, right? Put an extra $300-400. Go fix the things. So there's a lot of different ways to go find contractors. One is asking around. I see somebody wrote in here, stock contractors at Home Depot. Yeah, I mean, walking to Home Depot between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. I'm sorry, and ask them if they have capacity for jobs. If they say no, they're busy right now, say, when will you be free? Go build a book of those people. By the way, those people are going to bring you deals also. Go on TaskRabbit, right? TaskRabbit's a great way. Go hire somebody to do a little tiny job. This is what I always do with every contractor, no matter how big or small. I give them a tiny one-off thing to do, and then I just increase their load. If you can do this really well, hey, can you do this also after that? Okay, now can you do this? Now, and then, I go from there. But I would just say that, I think that construction is or can be hard, but I think that it's only if you're just trying to do it off the seat of your pants versus learning it.
Yeah, no, that's
everything fair. That I try to go learn. Right now, a big thing I'm learning on the back end is infinite banking, right? And so I just finished my 4th book on it, right? If you want to go learn banking and you don't understand banking, I still don't think I'm fully there, but I understand a hell of a lot more than I did. Now, what if I go read another 10 books? And I've read 14 books on the subject. Better believe if I actually focused on it, I would know a lot about it. I bet you there's 10 books you could go read on construction if it's something you actually wanted to take seriously or scale.
Right. No, that's a fair point. What other questions? I think I saw Helen asked who your hard money lender is. That could be a separate conversation unless you want.
Yeah. So I currently, the way our money works today is quite honestly, we have so much funds from our flipping that we're doing, right? The rental income that's coming in and the flips that we're doing, that we roll funds into the next deal. So we're self-funding a huge amount of our deals. And then I have 3 to 5 individuals who are private lenders who lend me private money. I would say if you're looking to flip, Kiavi is a great bank to go lend from. They will not only lend you money, they'll lend you 80% of the sale price, and they'll lend you 100% of the renovation costs. So Kiavi would be a good one. You could use Fund That Flip. Those are 2 hard money lenders that are the top probably hard money lenders in Cleveland, Ohio. Jag is another one. I've never used Jag, but I've used Kiavi and Fund That Flip. Both of them do a good job. Or find somebody who has a lot of money. If you actually have a good deal, who do you know in your world that has a lot of money that you can partner with or do something with?
That's awesome. What else? Aaron, you've probably got something teaming there.
Yeah, most of mine out.
Got most of yours out. You're in the game. You and Michael are crushing it too.
Yeah, I just take credit for his success. But I did start hard money lending it years ago. I did just what I said. I took out a home equity line and was charging 14% and have ever since. So.
So you're doing your own lending, but you used a loan to get started, which is smart. You basically just solved for the spread there. Is that right?
Well, I bought my house as a foreclosure, fixed it up, took out a home equity line, and I was just lending to other investors because I was just super risk mitigated. So it's taken me a long time to invest myself, and we're just finally getting into that game within the last year.
Good. That's awesome. We got another question out here. How do you handle renters who default? When do you start eviction? So any landlord tricky tenant stuff you've learned, Coby?
Yeah, so I'll just throw out there, figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're not good at, figure out what you're willing to do, and figure out what you're not willing to do. One thing I'm not willing to do is manage properties as a property manager. So what do? I use a who versus a how. How would be me figuring it out. Who would be hiring somebody who's really good at it. So I hired a property management company and they manage all of my properties, and all those questions that you just asked, they handle because they are professionals at what they do. And I'm not a professional evictor. That's how I would 100% answer that type of question, which maybe is not the answer you wanted.
Good answer. My coach just pushed me to hire I picked up more properties than I had the capacity to handle this summer. And he said, Mark, tell me when you're going to have a property manager, because this isn't good for you.
You're going to give away 8 to 10% of your profits for an opportunity to buy probably 30 to 40% more time.
Yeah, exactly. What else? My parting question for you, Coby, and people can roll their eyes like, oh, of course, Mark would ask this question, but you could choose to run your business in a lot of different places with, in partnership with a variety of companies. Why has KW been the place for you and your team to do just that?
It's a great question, right? I mean, all of us could go jump ship to the shiny object again, right? You look at the consistency and it's really the people, right? I think people and culture are why we do things, but then it's the opportunity we go create. People are so focused on what their splits are, on what their caps are, what their fees are. But at the end of the day, like a lot of what I'm talking right now is locking into like KW Wealth, right? Or the Be Wealthy Network, which I'm part of. And so it's like by locking into the things that Keller Williams provided, it maybe didn't help me reduce my cap. But do you really care about a cap if you can go make an extra $1.4 million in a business that runs alongside your current business?
Yeah.
And so Keller Williams has just been the best place to grow me as an entrepreneur and a businessman. And I've looked at every other model, and I think they have a lot of great opportunities in the rev share side or the referral side of the business. But at the end of the day, I realized that like I want to be a real estate business person, not a referral machine.
Yeah. What's the core of my business, and where's the best place for my core to operate, realizing that secondary stuff is not irrelevant, but it shouldn't be the tail that wags the dog.
Yeah, I wanted to go crush something and then be able to teach it versus go somewhere and then 2 months later be like, you got to join. Like, it's amazing. It's like, well, it's been amazing for 2 months. How long has it been amazing for? Because I've been somewhere since, 2013, and I could show you year over year.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. Who you're in business with matters, and we say at KW that where entrepreneurs thrive, and I think you and what you've built are a resounding example of that. So I really appreciate you taking the time for preparing and for bringing it today.
Reach out to me, shoot me on Instagram or something like that. Hit up me, let me know I can help. Let me know what you're looking at. If you have a deal, maybe I'll run some comps for you, and we'll figure out if it's good or not. If you need money, I can refer you to the couple of people I have in my back pocket, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Coby. Thanks, y'all. We'll see some of you at
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Team Mastermind next Tuesday at American Title in Fairlawn. Hope to see some of you there. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.